Hello and welcome back. As always, we've taken almost 1,000 calls in the last hour and a half, and there are already new leads that we can report.
We asked for your help to find whoever was responsible for starting the fire inside the house of the Kassam family in Oakwood Gardens, Chadwell Heath, Essex. It happened at 5 to 4 in the morning on Saturday the 13th of July. Mrs. Shamir Kassam, who was 8 months pregnant, and her 3 children were all killed. And Chief Superintendent Gibson, have you had any calls on this?
Yes, we've had quite a few calls, but firstly perhaps I ought to say that Mr Kassam was more generally known as Kaz to all of the people in Chadwell Heath. And we've had a couple of calls from people who want us to emphasise that. His name was Kaz.
Because you did want calls on the family, if anybody knew anything about the family.
That's quite right, yes.
What other calls have you had?
We've had 4 possible sightings on the Toyota, and they're being checked out by the local police, and half a dozen calls from people who think that they can identify the man in the red Cavalier.
Right, and if we could just have one quick description of him again.
Yes, he's about 35 years of age, 5'10" tall, mousy coloured hair, quite smartly dressed, and as you can see he's wearing a white shirt there. We think he may have come from a nightclub or something like that.
Well, it's a truly dreadful crime. Please do ring if you can help in any way at all.
If you were watching a couple of hours ago, you'd have seen how an armed man had stolen nearly £500,000 in a series of attacks on building society staff.
I'm going now. Stay there. Don't even think about moving for at least 10 minutes.
Chief Inspector John Bassett, describe what sort of response you've had.
I've had a tremendous response. A majority of the calls are in relation to the cord.
This is the rope that he used to tie somebody up?
Yes, that's right. And the 2 most popular theories are that possibly it is manufactured in Cyprus, and it looks particularly like a type of cord that is used by British telecom engineers in this country.
Right. As for the villain himself, I gather you've had names?
Yes. More interesting, as far as I'm concerned, is that we've received many calls naming the man, and of course for operational reasons I can't tell you exactly what we're doing about it, but all I can say is that officers of the flying squad are at this moment in time out there checking on the identity of this man.
OK, we have a description of him. He looks very much like the actor that we used. This is the man we think is responsible for the Building Society robberies, but if you're about to call in and say it's Steve Hodson, no, it's not. He is the actor. It's a man who looks like him. Thank you very much indeed.
And now to bring us up to date with some of the crimes from our incident desk, here are David Hatcher and Helen Phelps. David, first of all, the security van robbery at the Widnes hypermarket on the 20th of July.
Yes, we've had a number of calls, and the officers are very pleased with the response. In fact, calls have confirmed suspicions the officers held but were unable to prove. Now they can, so they've solved that one. And we've had 3 phone calls giving new leads on the tracksuit trousers. Remember, these are the items that were left behind in the white Ford Orion that was dumped following the getaway, and also with the blue-black jumper. So we've had some leads on that. But if you know who they belong to, call us.
And what about the car radio thefts from Vauxhall car pounds all around the country?
Yes, these are the ones similar to the ones stolen, models 741 and 441. We've had calls leading to possible sellers of these items, so there are a number of leads to follow up there. And we've also had more reports to us from other forces who've really been put together by Crimewatch, telling us that they've had crimes of this type from them. So that'll help with our intelligence overall.
Might be able to trace those back. Helen, what about the rapist who we're trying to find in Merseyside?
Yes, the rape happened in Crosby. There have been 2 possible sightings in the area of the offender. The video fit shows him, or the photo fit shows him of about 30 years old, 5'10", with light brown or ginger hair and a moustache. He's broad-shouldered and weighs about 12 stone. The officers are following those leads up now.
And finally, the armed robber at the Alliance Building Society in Hove in Sussex.
Well, there have only been a few calls, but the ones we have had are causing quite a bit of interest amongst the Sussex officers. They've come from as far afield as North Wales, bearing in mind this happened in Hove.
Right, we just had a look finally at what he looks like, so if anybody does recognise that man, please do ring us. Thank you.
Out of that tragic killing of 9-year-old Imran Vora in Preston 7 weeks ago. It happened in Avenham Park, where at about 4:30 on Thursday afternoon, the 11th of July, a woman thinks she saw a small boy walking alone. He was wearing a brown and beige anorak. Now, Imran was last seen wearing one very similar. Little Imran's body was found 2 days later in one of the dens that he used to play in. Superintendent John Boyd, we were rather disappointed with the number of calls in London, but I gather you've had quite a response in Preston.
Yes, the response in Preston has been very good. We've got more than 14 calls. One in particular, the content is something we would expect, and it will be followed up in the morning. It relates to somebody who on the day in question, his movements were suspicious to say the least.
Now, we had quite a good description of a man given by a schoolgirl, a friend of Imran's, who thinks she saw this man call him across the road from the school, from Frenchwood Junior School.
Yes, the witness described the man as being about 5'10" to 6 foot, in his late 20s, slim-build with black hair. He was seen by the schoolgirl who knew Imran.
Right. If you were in Avenham Park, if you know anyone who is in Avenham Park, remember the date, Thursday the 11th of July, between 4 and 7 p.m, please call us.
And next we asked for your help with the murder of 61-year-old Roy Page, keeper from Bristol. Avon and Somerset police needed to trace a man who claimed to be testing for gas leaks in the neighbourhood. His behaviour was rather strange.
Shouldn't have done that.
You have to have it sealed up.
No, I don't.
You ever got a glass of water?
Yes, of course. But I think you better let me do it because
All right.
this is a terrible chap.
At 5 p.m, the bogus gas man definitely spoke to Roy Page and was seen going inside the shop. And Detective Superintendent Lou Clark, what sort of calls have you had on this one?
Well, very disappointing, to be honest. I hoped we'd get a call about the missing brush. We've had nothing. Don't forget, this is the mirror that matches the brush. I hope somebody knows where that is. Perhaps it's been discarded. I was very disappointed, really, from the criminal fraternity. I thought we'd get something from somebody there, because a man doesn't set out in middle age to do a thing like this. He's got to be known. He's got to have been doing this for some years. He's a middle-aged man, isn't he?
He's a very distinctive man, isn't he? Somebody must have seen him.
We've had a very disappointing response from Wales. He's got a Welsh accent. A big man, 5'11", 15 stone, black hair, possibly wearing glasses. I hope we're going to get a much better response from Wales and from the criminal fraternity.
Please do ring if you can help. Detective Superintendent, thank you.
And finally, to tell us what he's discovered so far about our Aladdin's Cave of Unclaimed Property, here's John Bly.
Well, I'm particularly pleased to tell you we've had several calls about the bridge table, the most likely is from Hertfordshire. We've also had a lot of calls about these 3 boxes on the whatnot here, the 2 writing boxes, and in the middle, the Tunbridge-ware one, which is, of course, a work box. On the right here, we've had several calls about the Duck family. We think the most likely place that they were in is in Tatton Park, after a call from someone in Staffordshire. So we hope we've got a home for them again. But most of all, you've all been ringing up about the watches and the jewellery. So to give you another look from the Hunter watches through the other pocket watches that we've got here, to give you another chance to see if you can recognise them definitely. At the right end, we've got a bracelet which has got to Lillian from Billy in 1958. Sarah Whitworth, where are you? We have your watch. And somebody out there must know who JR is, because he's got a type in which we have. If you know him, please give us a ring.
Well, somebody must have seen some of that. The lines here are closing now, but the local numbers will be on your screen in a moment, and they're all on CFAX on page 186. If you'd like to write to us in confidence, this is the address: Crimewatch UK, BBC Television Centre, London W12 8QT.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for calling if you did, and please don't have nightmares. Do sleep well.
Good night.
Good night.